those like fathers thinking about joining the special father mastermind, just want to give a quick testimonial. I have been in the mastermind for a little bit over 9 months now. It's like like what David was mentioning in the beginning of the conference about having the weekly meetings with other fathers. I think it was very beneficial to have someone else to talk to about different issues that we face as a father. So for those of you that's considering or looking into that, that also is a father with kids with special needs, I think that's a wonderful program to consider. And because it can get really, really lonely. Just no one really understand what you're going through in your life, either professionally or on your personal life. Like I used to work in corporate for many years before I left and run my own business full time. But even when I used to work in corporate in the big office, just like no one actually faced what I faced with like 2 kids with special needs and different medical conditions. Like most people don't even know what IEP is, so it get very very lonely sometimes, as some of most of you understand. So to be able to talk with father that's kind of in the similar mindset is actually really beneficial. Because I think everyone in the mastermind have kids in different age group. My kids is a little bit younger. There's other father in the mastermind that's already, I guess, the empty nesters. So when you get to hear people from different perspective and dealing with kids from different age group with different issues. So I just want to give a quick testimony about that for those of you that's kind of considering.
Yeah, I didn't even know what IEP was either when I came into this. So
it's a different world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. With my daughter at this point, we've just been doing stuff at home. I mean, theoretically, she would start kindergarten this year, and we haven't really looked into whether we're gonna send her yet or not, or keep her at home for now. But
yeah, so you're just starting your journey. So
exactly.
That's a perfect time to start getting the information, because like Catherine was saying that most people only get to it once the thing get really, really bad. That's already too late a lot of time. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I know they have there's lots of different programs here. And so I know there's stuff like that, but I don't know what they all are yet. And I mean, COVID hasn't helped either. So like we moved in this area just before COVID hit, and we haven't really connected to much of anything because everything was shut down for a while. So
what state do you live in right now?
I'm in Ontario. I'm in Canada.
Oh, in Canada.
Yeah. So so I've started to like look to make the connections, but I mean, in the other hand, we've been pretty blessed. Like she has Downs, but she's very smart, and yeah, we almost view her as really as not being disabled in some respects. So,
Jeremy, if I could chime in on that really quick before they actually get started. I know you said something earlier about not wanting to. She's in kindergarten. Your child is in kindergarten, and not wanting to start too soon. My daughter has a rare genetic disorder called Angelman Syndrome.
Yeah.
She was diagnosed at the age of 1. And I wasn't really looking at starting her at anything early either, and just kind of keeping her home, watching her. She wasn't walking or anything like that yet. And turns out we actually started her on physical and speech therapy at the age of 6 months, once we knew something was kind of off about her development. And we actually had her put into a special needs school that's strictly for special needs children at the age of 2.5. And I didn't really want to start her at that age either, but it turns out that early intervention for us was a blessing in disguise, because like I said, she still wasn't walking by the age of 2.5. And one of the factors that led me into not even wanting to put her in the school is that she wasn't walking. I didn't want her crawling around on the ground, bacteria and things at school. But the convincing factor was an innovative harnessing system that ran around the classroom that kept the children that weren't walking on their feet. So
interesting.
Those innovations like that is what got me to really get her started early in life. And I think that kind of worked out to her advantage.
Yeah. in our case, like we have gotten some school books. Like my wife does do school stuff with her. Like she knows her alphabet. She can count. Well, it's hit and miss getting up to 20, 22, something like that. But so she is learning. It was just more like whether we send her to school or homeschool. Like I was homeschooled till grade 6 when I was younger, and my wife was homeschooled a bit as well.
Oh, okay.
And so that's a bit of a background. And but on the other hand, I'd love to see her go for the social aspects and such as well. So it's a combination of wanting control over what they're teaching her, and also, essentially getting out in the world as well, and getting to, make more friends and have some of the resources that the schools have. So it's one of the things we have to look more into that as well.
Absolutely.
Challenge.
Yeah.
I love the sharing. Make sure everybody can hear me. I'm assuming since everybody stopped talking that you can hear me. So I'm Rooster. I wanted to hop in here and say hello. I understand that this is in the right spot for the athletics and other events conversation. So I have been asked to moderate this conversation. I don't know if anyone else in here has been asked to moderate this conversation. If so, maybe raise your hand and tell me. Okay, got it, Evan.
Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So I'll start it off with a quick introduction. I'll have Evan do the same, and then I have a couple of ideas for how I want to kind of attack this. And if at any point you feel like you're not getting any value out of this, I'm going to ask you to tell me that. Like, I legitimately want you to raise your hand and say, Rooster, I'm leaving because I'm not getting value out of this. And then let me figure out how we can make it valuable for you. Because I think that there's so many topics that we could talk about. So that's the number one rule. The second, it is not giving you value, this conversation. You will come off mute and you'll say, I am not getting value. All right, cool. So before I introduce Evan, I'll give you the 30-second overview. Hello, David. We are here. We are rocking. I was on episode 29 in the podcast with David, and that's how I kind of really got to know David, and I could go a whole story of what has happened since then. But I will surmise it with saying that Ainsley was my second born daughter and lived to be almost 13 years old. And during her journey with a very, very rare genetic disorder called INAD, one of 7 in the United States, we found running together. So she was unable to walk, she was unable to talk, but she was able to sit and experience the sensation of the wind in her face when we ran together. And that led to the formation of something called Ainsley's Angels of America, which is now in hundreds of communities and probably in many of your cities if you're in the United States, where we bring together able-bodied folks with those with exceptional abilities. We provide the equipment so they can go out and be included in road races, triathlons, and swimming events. That's the overview of who I am and why I've been asked to facilitate. I tried to do it in a short amount of time. Evan, do you want to accept the challenge for 1 minute or less introduction of yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Evan Couch. I am the intern for David. So to keep it short, I'm a business major studying MIS at Iowa State University. I have interest in cars, and and I'm just really excited to help out with this conference. So I'll leave the floor to you, Rooster.
Understood. Thank you. So, gentlemen, I think it would be good if we started off with an understanding of, what type of activities are in your communities already. So, when we think about athletics, like some communities have a bunch of options and some communities don't have any options. And so if we look through the lens of possible, I can offer that, with an adaptive running chair, your whole family can actually go for a walk or go in a local 5K or race, and you can do these things together. And if your exceptional family member is able to walk or run, then the chair might not be needed, or maybe the chair could be used when needed, and the exceptional family member could get out and walk with the chair or jog with the chair as you go out and do that together. So I mentioned that up front. Obviously, my passion is for it because that's what I do now, and spread this across the globe. But I mention it because it can be done for all people. We've had a 108-year-old triple great grandfather get pushed in a race by his triple great grandson. And we've had people with diagnoses ranging from A to Z at 18 months old that have been included in this experience. And when you have the chair at your house, the whole family can go for a walk. And so that's the beauty of it. What other types of events are you seeing in your community that are working for you? And maybe hit the button to raise your hand, or I don't know the best way to do that so we're in some kind of civilized manner. We know there's everything, and I'm waiting for a hand raise, basketball to, adaptive hockey, sledding, skiing, equa, in the whole horse space. Like there's so many things, and sometimes it's a matter of understanding the realm of possible of what's out there. So I don't want to just talk the whole time. I would love for others to share what has worked in their communities and what they're doing with their exceptional family member. Go ahead, sir. I see Lynn in the upper corner there on my screen. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, I don't see the hand raise button on my screen, so I'll have to do it manually. So what you mentioned, I'm here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I mentioned earlier, my daughter has a rare genetic disorder called Angelman Syndrome, and she didn't walk early in life. It took her until she was just over 3 years old to actually start walking, which is common for that particular syndrome. Me being a former athlete in high school and a little bit of college, military, as well as arena football, sports was kind of my passion. And even though I do have a son, I do have 3 girls as well. And my Angelman child is a young lady, and she's 12 years old. And we noticed that around once she started walking, she wanted to basically run through the house like crazy. So one of the programs here, obviously, you have the Special Olympics that are available to our children and youth with special needs. And Kalamazoo has a really good program locally that she could attend. And for 2 years, we got her involved in the Special Olympics. She ran 2 races and won a couple of awards, and then decided that once she turned the age of 7, that being a princess was better than being an athlete. And she used to turn and wave to the crowd as she was doing her 100-yard dash or her 50-yard dash. But the fact that the program was available to her and they welcomed her in, and it really gave her an opportunity to be around other people, other children with similar situations, and for us as parents to be around other parents with similar situations, and at the same time provide some type of athletic setting for her, which turned out to be
Thanks for those key points. Like sometimes these athletic experiences have a lot to do with obviously the exceptional family member, but the opportunity for us to come together and have conversation and moms and dads compare notes, it's huge. And that's what we've brought with really the Ainsley's Angels program that we've brought to our communities. We're seeing that the rider is enjoying it, but while the rider's running, the parents are getting some respite. And that's the community that we've tried to build. And we're really excited about it. Great point. Special Olympics, Lynn. Thank you. Brian, you're next, sir. Brian's on the clock.
The Illinois is pretty fortunate. We were the founding area for special recreation associations. And basically what that is that park districts, you have cooperatives, like 3 or 4 park districts joined together to provide programs, not competition like Special Olympics, but programs, just activities. My son has been in programs where it's just like outings, going to different places with supervision and everything else. Special recreation associations. Some of our park districts in the past few years have opened up and have special programs for individuals with special needs. But the special ed co-ops have been around going back. Well, let's see, my son with autism is 41. For most of his life, they've had it, these programs. So ours, the program that he was in, covers about 8 suburbs of Chicago. And again, the city of Chicago has their own special rec association. And they do, again, programs, maybe bowling, maybe whatever, different activities. And they're by age groups and the level of special needs. So we're pretty fortunate in Illinois is to having activities like that available. One of the activities that they used to sponsor.
It could be me, but I think your audio is starting to shake up on you there, Brian. So you were saying that the special rec associations offer bowling. What was something else they offered?
A number of activities, but one of them is a respite one where it's a night where the kids come and do some activities, but the parents just network.
Friends, is it just me or is his audio? Okay. Brian, we're having audio issues from you, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay, respite and bowling. I'm going to throw it to Shane and we'll see if the connection gets better, Mr. Brian. Shane?
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Shane Madden here in just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. I have a 6-year-old son, Marshall, who has cerebral palsy, and he actually didn't start walking until he was about 5 years old. And growing up, baseball was my sport, and always wanted to, have a child, be able to participate in that particular athletic sport. And was fortunate enough here in my community. I had originally looked for a miracle league, a miracle baseball field league, and the closest one was in South Haven, Mississippi at the time. But we've had a lot of luck with our local church. They actually fielded a special needs baseball team called Field of Friends. And I see a lot of these churches starting to really pick up on these special needs ministries and offer these type of sporting events. And it was so amazing because they were able to field 4 different teams of all different ages, special needs, not only just children, but adolescents, young adults. And it's just amazing to see all those different individuals out there enjoying and having fun playing the sport. And so, I would recommend if, some of these local churches, because it seems like these special needs ministries are really starting to gain some momentum across the country.
Yeah, solid, man. Thanks for offering that up. I wouldn't have thought about that on the top of my head, but it makes a lot of sense. And it's great to hear that, love your neighbor is extending beyond the confines of the building. So that's beautiful. Thanks for offering that up, sir. And John, you had your hands up next, and then we'll get to Mick. If you can't pick up on what I'm doing here, I'm trying to go around and get all the ideas on the table and maybe provide some insight to others of things they may not have thought about. So I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll echo a lot of what Brian said. Brian and I actually live in the same area in Northern Illinois. So one of the things also that has helped my son a lot is actually our local YMCA, because not only do they have a Special Olympics coach there who does swimming with him, which he loves, but he also does a variety of other programs, such as an exercise class specifically for special needs, and actually a yoga class for special needs, which I've done with my son. Now I've done yoga myself, in terms of me going to a class, but getting your special needs son to go to a yoga class and having to get him into those positions, so that he can do the downward dog, and you're kind of straining and pulling him and all that. I mean, it's a bonding experience, but it's great because again, the YMCA already kind of has this identity of being out in the community, and so it's great when they have a presence there as far as not just having a Special Olympics represented there, but also doing some of these other classes and outreach and stuff. And one of the things that we have in our community too is we have a great martial arts dojo, and a guy that has been doing Special Olympics karate for almost 40 years now, I think. And he does not only Special Olympics, but he also does a special needs karate class. So my son does a private session, and then there's also a group class that he can do as well. So, and you get some of the other younger kids who are part of the dojo to help them out and be a one-on-one with them there. So great experience there. Again, a lot tied to, with Special Olympics are kind of having that thread, but also you see the other ways, especially with the Y, that, it also connects with the bigger community.
Yeah, solid, man. Thanks for sharing. The Y's definitely got a great resource, a lot in a lot of areas. One of the things that I want to get to after I hear Mick is, if those of you that are having a hard time finding something in your community, if there's any of those folks out there, I definitely have some ideas I want to offer to you. So think about if you don't feel like there's enough for you in your community and for your exceptional family member, I definitely have some ideas I want to share. Mick, table's yours.
Thank you. So my 12-year-old has cerebral palsy and autism, and she gets a lot of her therapies at Shriners Hospital here in Portland, and they specialize in orthopedic care. So conditions, that where a child would be in a wheelchair or a gait trainer or something. They actually have an in-house recreation therapist, and they partner with an organization called Adventures Without Limits. And with that program, my daughter has been able to do a lot of different things. They have adaptive whitewater rafting and kayaking and rock climbing up at Mount Hood. And even recently she went snow skiing at Mount Hood, they have a special ski that's made that she actually sits in it. It's like a wheelchair on skis. But anyway, they just every chance they have to come up with a way of getting these activities to someone like my daughter. She's a quadriplegic from cerebral palsy, so effectively not having any abilities, but they're able to create these opportunities for her. So there are organizations like that around, and there are hospitals that actually staff people too. Shriners is a great example of that. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks so much for sharing, because there's a plethora of things out there if we just use our imagination to kind of think through it. I mean, this whole idea, who would have thought, snow skiing or even water skiing, and the way that things have been adapted to try to make sure that all people can be included, typically started with a mom or a dad just being, mindful to the realm of possible, and then working together with someone who may be an expert in space to adapt to allow us to execute. I think all the things that you all have mentioned, and I wrote them down here, kayaking, rock climbing, snow skiing, hiking, yoga, martial arts, the things provided by the Special Rec Association, bowling, baseball, Challenger Miracle, your church's effort with Friends, Field of Friends, YMCA, Special Olympics. Gentlemen, that is a huge list of opportunity. And so I'd love to know if there's anybody in here who's feeling like their community doesn't offer any of these things, or if you feel isolated with lack of opportunity. Anyone? That's a good thing. So I'm very, very happy to hear that was a lot of silence there. It implies that we're finding a way to be engaged. We're finding a way to ensure that those we love can be included in our communities. I see a hand up there from Corey. Go ahead, sir.
That I feel it's a little bit limited where I'm at. I mean, there's things available, but I feel some of it's for a little bit older age. Like I wanted to get my kids involved with Special Olympics, and they were a little too young at this point. We do top soccer, but again, which is like a buddy system soccer league that they have them around the country, but I drive about a half an hour to get to the place for that. Yeah, I mean, John, I'd love to hear if you could throw in the chat which martial arts place you go to, because I'm also in Illinois. I'd love like that kind of availability a little closer to where I'm at. But like Brian was saying, through like the Park District grouping, there is some things that are available. Not as much on the weekends as would be easier for our lifestyle.
Fair. And so I can't help but take it back to this idea of a family run. I'm not here to like promote Ainsley's Angels and the great work we do, but I am here to make you aware of it. So regardless of your children's ability or age, there's an opportunity for the family to go for a walk or a run in your neighborhood or at the local park. And all you're really missing is the adaptive equipment to do it. So if that's something that interests you, then hit me up, Corey, and you will then be able to, I don't know, be able to schedule whenever you all want to go out and do something together. So something to think about. Great points. And Corey you got the answer there in the chat. So good. What else is on our minds, gentlemen? I'm sure that we could talk through so many options. We're slated for another 30 minutes here. I also don't want to waste anybody's time. So if you have something of value that the group can maybe benefit from, now's a good chance to kind of raise your hand. And I can pass you the torch. Evan, I think it was Evan. Is there something else that you wanted, from a facilitation standpoint to touch on? Like I said, I'm a fan of not wasting anybody's time. So if we've exhausted the options we've shared, we may have met the expectation. At least that's how I feel, gentlemen. So
sure. Well, usually how it goes is if there's no more talking on the athletics side, we can just open the floor to conversation in general about special needs if anybody wants to start a conversation.
All right. Well, I'm not scared to start that. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I will just tell you by way of background, and I don't know how many of you can connect on this, but my exceptional family member passed away in 2016. And so for the past 6 years, I've been grieving her death. And during Mental Health Awareness Month, it gives us an opportunity to really be mindful of the need to actively grieve. And so I don't know how many of you are also grieving the loss of a loved one in the exceptional space, but I do know that everyone loses people. Death is a nature of life. And so if anybody is needing to hear this, I just want to offer something that has worked for me, which is magic. My active grieving instills courage. And so as you're traveling life and you're navigating grief, actively grieving through acknowledging your feelings, all of them, the highs, the lows, and countering the need to numb your feeling, can be very, very helpful in your journey to really courage. And I'm not going to say journey to recovery. I'm going to say journey to courage to continue to go moving forward. I'm not a psychologist, I'm a dad. And I thought that if we're going to talk about special needs and exceptional care, what better space than to offer what I believe has been magical for me. So.
Thank you for sharing. I myself, my eldest child passed away. Nicole was 42 with 3 small kids, passed away a couple of years ago of an illness. And she was going to be the care provider for my son with autism. She was a go-to person. And we've been grieving with that, and have been part of a group of grieving parents who have lost a child.
Yeah, and we have to pull up alongside each other. And I think as we navigate that space, Brian, you can attest that like there's lessons that you can learn from losing your own children, but there's also lessons that can be transformed or transcend into grief in general. My mom passed away really fast from cancer in October, and I found that like the same grieving process that I was having for the loss of Ainsley, I was able to apply them, and it made it, I'm not going to say easier, but it made it possible for me to feel losing her. And we as men typically aren't educated on how to do that. And so I don't want to make this a somber conversation. It's actually something to celebrate when you can learn how to feel. So thank you for sharing, Brian. Some of you are like, man, I'm about to leave this group. What just happened? Again,
Do you want to talk about the dad's group at all?
Say again.
I talked to John. John, do you want to talk about the dad's group?
You mean like mine or the mastermind or any of this?
General dad's groups.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just go on here, and you know, the last couple of conferences we actually had a session on dad support groups, and we've got a few of them that go on here in the Northern Illinois area, but you know, they happen all over the country, and there's actually some pretty robust ones, but I'll just throw a couple things out. So and I guess I'll go from macro to micro here, which means big to small if you haven't had 3 cups of coffee yet. So we do something, and actually I see Jason on the call here too. So Jason's part of a group that we do through Special Fathers called Mastermind Group, and it was spoken to, you know, in terms of the opening session here today. So we meet every Wednesday night at 8 Central, and there's a group of about 10 of us, dads from all over the country, and we just you know, there's a particular structure to it. So and David kind of went through it, but you know, we do specific sharing. You know, we have guys that we focus on, you know, each week kind of a thing. You know, we do a book study and all that. So it's been very valuable for me, I know, because it's the consistency of knowing that you've got a set group of guys that you meet with every week, and guys that you kind of go through life with. And even though it's really only for a year specifically, I would tell you that over these last, whatever it's been now, 9 months or so, we've got to know each other pretty well, and to the point where, you know, you develop these like text chains and this kind of stuff. So if anybody's got something going on, whether it's a health issue, something with their child, something personally, you know, I know we're talking about grief and loss. I mean, you know, I am divorced, for example. So, you know, especially with special needs, that, you know, also I think plays in there in terms of loss of, you know, marriage and, you know, long-term plans that way. So the guys have been very, very supportive in that. And I know, David has been talking about expanding the mastermind groups, certainly after this kind of trial run that we're doing. So if anybody out there is interested in participating with that, definitely reach out to David, because we're kind of looking at either at least, re-upping one for this next year or possibly branching out more. So Jason, since you're here, is there anything you want to say about the Wednesday night group at all that you found helpful or, supportive that way?
I actually shared already earlier during
okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. Yeah, beat me to it. But it's really been helpful that way for sure. So I mean, and that's in a big sense. I mean, locally, I'm involved with a few dads groups. I run one again in the north suburbs of Illinois. That's kind of small. We do meetups monthly. Well, we had been doing meetups monthly, and in person before COVID, and then we switched to Zoom, and now we're doing them back up again. So it's a very casual thing. We meet at a sports bar, and they give us a private room, and we sometimes have a guest speaker, that kind of thing. But it's just a way for guys to get together, kind of stuff. And I guess the point is that it doesn't need to be really complicated or complex. You just need to have a space, and you need to kind of create an environment where guys just feel comfortable coming and sharing it. It's a challenge for guys to share, for sure. As I like to famously say, you could put 10 women in a room and with a bottle of wine and they're best friends at the end of the night. And, with dads, it takes a little bit more, but you find different ways to do it. And then on top of that, there's a couple of other, good ones in my area. I think there's one specific to Downs that's down in the south suburbs. And then there's another, bigger one that's been around for a longer time, actually, that I met some guys through. So even if you're not in like the Illinois area and you're like, I'd love to either find something like this or maybe create something like this. Facebook is a great way to connect with people. I'm involved with Facebook groups. I've got my own group for my dad's meetup. There's groups that the other dads have for their dad meetup. So even if you're in another part of the state or another state or part of the country, if you're just looking to meet with guys and connect, maybe get some ideas for things, I can certainly share some of the Facebook groups, and you're welcome to just jump in and communicate. Because again, advice and support, the great thing about virtual is you can always do that, right? And I think we've all learned that with, everything that we got from COVID kind of thing. So, but I know for myself personally, I do a lot of stuff, and I'm always happy to answer questions or, just talk to anybody, whatever it is. So.
Yeah, it's solid, John. Thanks for sharing. In fact, you motivated me to type up my contact information and throw it in the chat. I'm happy to connect with anybody in any of the places. If there's something that I said that perhaps, hit you, happy to connect. And we all hope that we're never going to be in a position where our children go before us. But in the event you find yourself going down that space and trying to figure out how to navigate that, I guess there's a reason we're all in this little chat together here today. So extending my availability to help navigate that. And the mastermind has gotten rave reviews. David has asked me to join the mastermind group more than once in the way that David does. And I love the invitation. It's really a matter of time, frankly. But every time I hear about it, I'm like, man, that sounds like the group of dudes I need to hang out with, because we all have those connection points that we can share and build and grow with each other. So thanks for continuing to promote the masterminds, as well as the things you're doing outside of SFN. Yeah, John, thank you. Who else wants to chime in and have a couple thoughts here? Anybody? 10:50 Eastern, so we still have a little time.
I just want to kind of follow up on John's conversation about the benefit of joining the mastermind. I actually used to run a parent support group with 3,000 people. 3,000 mostly moms online. And we have a Facebook group. Actually, it's before COVID. But what we typically find is there's no dad in the group for some reason. Even though it's like a parent support group, but it's like 99% moms. So I think it's like a mentality shift that we as a man just need to get out there more and try to get more involved, because sometimes we are like the breadwinner and we're focusing on like, okay, let's go out and get money for the family. But sometimes emotionally, is we're not as involved with the rest of the family alongside with a spouse, and I'm actually guilty of that, being running two different, running businesses, and I was just so focused on my business. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit disconnect with the rest of the family. I maybe some of the guys that's on the call could resonate with that, but I just want to kind of encourage people that to really take the next step, to open up and to just be vulnerable. And this is something I openly share in the weekly mastermind as well, because I also went through a lot of trauma with my kids. Actually, the year when I started my business in 2017, the same year my daughter got diagnosed with leukemia. So that was like a crazy, almost 3 years of chemotherapy, trying to get my daughter back to a healthy state. But my son also have autism, ADHD. He already have it before my daughter got a cancer diagnosis. But there was a lot of things going on, and it was so much to the point I was at the edge of like a mental breakdown almost. So I think like back then I didn't know like this father group like this existed. Looking back, if I was able to join something like what David is offering right now, it will really help me kind of navigating that hardship. So I just want to encourage anyone, either yourself or if you know any other dad that's going through either, hopefully not as dramatic as like a cancer diagnosis, but anything that's dramatic or going through some personal issue with, really just parenting in general, having some other guy to able to talk to, because sometimes, men we have pride and we don't want to share and show our weakness sometimes in front of, especially my wife. I don't want to show my weakness in front of my wife, because sometimes I have such a shield in front of me. It's like, okay, I have everything covered. Doesn't matter what happened to my family, I have it covered. I can take everything on. But in reality, that's not actually the case. I'm actually very vulnerable inside, but it's really hard to share that openly, and especially in front of your wife or your spouse. So I just wanted to share that as a story, as an encouragement. So.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Jason, and thanks for your vulnerability to share with the group about, kind of your journey and where you've been. And you said something that made me want to reinforce like this idea of the guy and the men. We're strong and we don't want to show that we're weak. Like, I think that's just how we were raised. And I think that's unfortunate, but we have an opportunity to break that mindset. I have found that whenever I go to my wife and I am emotional and I am crying and I need her to comfort me, that it gives her that sense of being a caregiver. In fact, we've had more connection through moments of my vulnerability than we have had through moments of my strength. And I see my vulnerability now as a strength. And so if you haven't had a chance to, like, I don't know, cry with your wife or your significant other or somebody that you care about, I encourage you to make that a goal by the end of the month. Like it works, gentlemen. It's so, it feels so good. So anyway, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Anyone else have any thoughts on all things navigating this exceptional space?
Rooster, I was just wondering if your organization has any connections with Team Hoyt.
Yeah, obviously. Yes, thank you. Who asked? Where are you? Who's asking?
Sorry, this is Corey.
I'm trying to find your Corey. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so thank you for asking. Ainsley and I did our very first run together because Team Hoyt was in Virginia. And that turned us towards running all the time. And Dick Hoyt became a really good friend of mine. We lost him last year, but it was at his house in Massachusetts when we were talking about how do we grow this? How do we spread this? And at the time, Dick was not interested in having his name be associated with a bunch of little Team Hoyt, Team Hoyt, Illinois, Team Hoyt, Kansas City. And I told him that we had recently established Ainsley's Angels of America, and that our goal was to do that if he wasn't going to. And he gave us blessing, and I became mentored by him in that journey. In fact, I eventually became the executive director for Team Hoyt New England and helped them get that off the ground. And that's how I found David, because David went and did a father to father podcast with Dick Hoyt, and Dick Hoyt referred David to me. And that's how I became, episode 29. So yes, the connection is very, very strong. Ainsley and Rick Hoyt, who Dick pushed, Ainsley and Rick passed finish lines. In fact, Ainsley's last race was 100th race was the Marine Corps Marathon, and Ainsley and Rick ran the whole thing together. I pushed Ainsley, and Brian Lyons, who we lost recently as well, he started pushing for Dick. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, so huge connection. I could talk about that for hours. But
no,
yes.
Thanks for sharing. I mean, years before I was involved with special needs in my own life, I mean, I saw the Hoyts on around New Year's. ESPN always shows like feel good stories, and I think they show the Hoyt one pretty much every year now. And but yeah, amazing guy, and amazing that you're involved with through there.
Yep. He handed me the torch in 2013 and said, Rooster, I'm not getting any younger. Go and spread it. And since 2013, we have impacted over hundreds of communities and actually granted over 1,300 of the adaptive chairs to families across the United States. So I got the torch, sir, and I'm running with it. In fact, I just did a race this morning with our local Ainsley's Angels ambassadorship in Virginia Beach, and we partnered with Team Hoyt Virginia Beach for the execution of that. So we had about 25 exceptional athletes being pushed through the streets of downtown Norfolk this morning. So yes, the tie is strong. Thank you for asking, Corey. Gentlemen, we have about 12 minutes left, and would love to engage any additional conversation that you all would like to. If you feel like you want to take a break and prepare for the next session, feel free to do that as well. I'm going to stay in here until the session is over. If you have any questions or comments, we can entertain those, but this has been pleasurable. I appreciate y'all coming and chatting and comparing notes. And for those of you that are just getting here, I think Matt and Renee, you look to be new names to the group. We opened up with talking about the realm of YMCA, offering so much for exceptional family members, the Special Olympics, the Special Recs Association in Greater Illinois, offering bowling and so many other things, baseball, Challenger, Miracle Leagues, the churches, reaching out to the churches to help with things like Field of Friends and getting baseball and softball opportunities, special needs yoga, martial arts, kayaking, rope climbing, snow skiing, horseback riding, hiking. Like really, it's at the realm of possible is limited to your imagination. And it's a matter of just connecting in your community and getting to a point where you can find the right equipment in the right space to make sure that inclusive athletics can occur, whether that's in mainstream 5K running, which is what we do, or if that's a very adapted system that's specific to the population executing uniquely and independently. The sky's the limit. So Renee and Matt, thought I'd offer that background for you as to what we talked about.
Thank you. This is Matt Rabine. I'll say for me as a testimony, I have a 10-year-old son with autism, but he's extremely physically active and able, and we've found our happy place in indoor wall climbing. I mean, he's like a champ. I mean, he does things that most kids his age, wouldn't dream of doing. I mean, it's been going on 6 years now. It's been for us as father and son. It's been a really important bonding time, and we've always got our binoculars on, looking for new places we could go. And even when we travel, we try and find an indoor gym. And I think the biggest thing I would like to look for is I'd love for him to be part of a climbing team, in the future. It's just, I'm kind of trying to, I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, and trying to find some opportunities for him to do that here. I think that'd be the next step, is make it more of a social thing beyond just me and him.
What is his name, Matt?
Benjamin.
So I can't help but have my mind take me to a place that is, give me a B word in the rock space, like Benjamin's Bedrocks or Benjamin's something. And basically you create a 501c3 in Nashville, Tennessee, Greater Tennessee, and you establish this nonprofit, and it becomes Benjamin's legacy as he now screams to the world that like everybody can climb rocks, and Benjamin does it, and so does Benjamin's friends. And it is not just for special needs exceptional folks, it's for all the people in Nashville. And why don't you just start the team? Why don't y'all do that, man? And I know I'm being very forward here and I'm being aggressive in my language, but like, dude, like what an opportunity. Like I don't know, I felt the need to say that and take it or leave it.
No, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
That's good for me to hear. I need that kind of encouragement. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's a lot of work on the admin side to get it going. But like from what I'm hearing you say, like Benjamin is able to experience mainstream things, and,
yes.
and maybe he becomes the president and CEO founder of Benjamin's Bedrocks, and just blazes the path. And you're his executive director on this board, and however you want to do it. And it could be nonprofit, it can be for profit, however you decide to go. But I don't know, like.
No, that's good for me to hear, because I think for a long time I've been in the mode of I need people to come to me and give me opportunities as opposed to me going and creating the opportunities. So that's not typically the mindset that I operate from, but I'm seeing as he gets older and as things change, I need to change too, my approach. So I really appreciate you being that forward and upfront about that. That's really good for me to chew on.
Awesome. Well, when you get it set up and you need a board member, there's a whole bunch of people in the Special Fathers Network that would love to come on and show up alongside you and provide guidance along the way. So,
all right.
Yeah. Tennessee is really good to work with. Like Ainsley's Angels is national, but I have to operate in order to operate and solicit in each state, I have to file with each state. And I have found good success with Tennessee and working with the Attorney General's office and Department of State or Secretary of State. So yeah. It's a good state to do it in.
Hey, Benson, you want to say hi here, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you at, Benjamin? All I see is your dad's picture keep popping up.
Yeah, I've got to pop off camera here for a minute, but keep talking. I'm listening.
Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Maybe some success that you've had, instead of seeking opportunities, seizing the moment to create opportunities?
That's actually exactly what I did in 2017. So I started my own business, kind of designing product for kids with special needs.
Cool.
So we designed like sensory product.
In July, we're going to go to a pool in Wheeling.
Yeah, but I think it's about taking that initiative, that sometimes that leap of faith. It doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit or for profit. I mean, I have been an entrepreneur for the past 5 years, but sometimes that initial step is always the hardest, making that decision to taking that leap of faith. For us, like our background is we used to live in Japan, and we couldn't find the help and the support in Japan when we find out about our son's diagnosis. And we decided to move to the United States because of the lack of opportunities. To give you a perspective, we used to live in Tokyo, one of the largest metropolitan area in the world, but we can only find 2 therapy centers to take our son to, and he has autism and ADHD. And hopefully the situation is better nowadays. I don't know, I haven't been back for a while, but back then in 2013, that was the situation, and it kind of forced us to move and find better opportunity for our son. And then after we moved to United States, and then we realized all the therapy that we needed for our son, the insurance wouldn't pay for it. So that's kind of forced me to, okay, I need to figure out like how can I pay for this therapy on top of my day job, because whatever I was making is definitely not enough to pay for like ABA therapy, which is like one-on-one behavior treatment most of the kids with autism was on. And that's kind of how the initial motivation when I first started my business. So right now we have a team of 8 people. We're a small business, a small family business, but the whole inception of that business is because of my situation with my son. So I definitely want to encourage Matt, if he's still listening, is to think about how can you make it into maybe like a family, like either a nonprofit or even a family business, kind of really utilizing and really use the strengths of his son or your son. I think because a lot of the kids with special needs, they tend to get really, really good in certain area, but not so good on other area. But instead of looking at their weaknesses, I believe we should look at their strengths and double down on the strengths, so we can really because you don't need to be good at everything. You just need to be really, really good at something. Like even Elon Musk, he have autism. Like he talked about it like openly before I think on one of the TV shows. Like he also have a special need, but look at how successful he is, because he's able to truly understanding like who he is as a person and how to utilize his strengths. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Thank you much, and great points. Just piling on to the thesis of what we're offering to you, Matt, of an opportunity before you. So double down. Gentlemen, we have 3 minutes left of this session. I want to say that I appreciate the attentiveness and also appreciate your willingness to share and have conversation. I learned a couple of things from each of you, and I hope that this session provided you some form of value. As we wrap out, it looks like the rest of the schedule here takes us up to 11:10 or 10:10, or should I just say 10 after the hour, to conclude session 2. And then this particular track will continue after a 10-minute break and get into community-based resources. You all have the schedule in front of you. There's still 3 other options. Track 1, the new normal. Track 2, which is where you are, community-based resources. Track 3, combating depression. Track 4, residential and housing alternatives. So all of that starts right here in about 13 minutes. I'm going to stop talking and see if there's any saved round, as we call it in the Marine Corps. A saved round is if you're at the rifle range and you're shooting and then you're done because they said ceasefire. Sometimes you have rounds still left in your magazine. So are there any saved rounds, something you want to share with the group before we hit our 2-minute away from our 2-minute conclusion?
That's a wonderful program I want to share. I think it's very similar to the program you're running, Rooster. Is for my business, I've been partnered with a nonprofit called Culture City. They have a program called Sensory Inclusive Initiative. It's a free program, and the program is available in over 600 locations right now, including the NBA stadiums, baseball arenas, zoos, aquariums, cruise ships. But the idea of the program, you can Google them, just type in Sensory Inclusive Initiative. And what they do is they try to create an inclusive environment for kids with sensory needs. When just imagine if you have kids on the spectrum, they usually are overly sensory sensitive. So when you take them to like an NBA stadium, you can trigger a meltdown. So what the program is trying to do is to educate the staff about the sensory issues, provide them with an actual tool, they call it sensory bag. And inside the bag have fidget toys, noise canceling headphone. And my company actually designed one of the products for them to use in their program. It's a rideable weighted blanket that we designed for them to use. And then they also help those arena to build sensory rooms. So for those of you that have kids either on the spectrum or other sensory needs, go ahead and go check out their program. Is if you type in sensory inclusive classroom, there's like an app you can download and just enter your zip code to see where the closest participating location is. And I have been to a few local like zoo that is part of the program, and with my son, it has been very beneficial because sometimes he have problem in some of those public, I guess, a venue for him. So that's another good resource to check out if you have kids, especially with different sensory needs. So